Good Monday morning, everybody. I am Angie Callan, and this is No More Mondays, where we believe you can have a thriving career or business and an amazing life on your terms. And it's my job to bring you stories and people who are proof of that and who also have awesome resources to help you do the same. For all of you listening out there in podcast land, I do want to remind you that we go live on LinkedIn every Monday morning at 10 US Mountain, noon US Eastern. So if you want these conversations as fresh off the presses as you can get them, that is where you should tune in before we upload to podcast land in the afternoon. So for any of you out there who have followed along on my journey in life and work over the last few years, you know how much I love outdoor adventure and the active lifestyle that we live here in the Colorado mountains, which is why I am all very excited for you to meet Mark Gray. Mark is a performance specialist who is passionate about helping entrepreneurs and executives maintain the health and wellness that we need to be our best. Running a business takes a ton of stamina, and we need to make sure we are fueling that vessel and keeping it as healthy as possible. So if you are ready to step it up, hang on, because Mark is here to steer you in the right direction. Energetic bodies and strong minds, here we come. Mark Gray, welcome to No More Mondays.
Thanks for having me, Angie. That was quite the introduction. So I hope
Thanks.
I can live up to that.
I pride myself on introductions, so yeah. I appreciate the compliment.
No, yeah, like I said, just before we went live, excited to have a chat and hopefully share some somewhat helpful information and insights to your wonderful audience.
And one of the reasons I thought this could be so fitting when Mark reached out about being on the podcast was, I do talk a lot about active lifestyle, getting outdoors to tune out, but also everybody around here knows I'm a gym rat and I love a good barbell because it helps me perform better in work and in the outdoors. And that's why I thought that this would be such an applicable conversation, because I don't necessarily know that everybody automatically associates executive leadership and entrepreneurship with exercise. And I want, Mark, you to tell us why we should.
Yeah, exactly. When you think of entrepreneurship, I was actually writing some content about this earlier on. And when you think of entrepreneurship, you think of like money and deals and funds and investment, all that sort of stuff. You don't think about health and fitness. And like, I didn't get into fitness and think I'm going to help entrepreneurs. It wasn't. I got into fitness to help myself and then just train just regular people. And then it's not until I got a bit deeper into my career and I started meeting entrepreneurs and people that were head of mega £100 million businesses, and I started to see a bit of a correlation between some of these people that were in the gym at 6 a.m. and they were CEOs of big companies. So yeah, it's no surprise that if you want to get ahead, then you need to make your health and fitness I was going to say a priority, but it has to be your number one priority, just hands down.
Well, and I think if you don't prioritize it, it's naturally going to fall by the wayside. I'm one of those people that until 6 months ago was up at 5 and in the gym at 6. And then I afforded myself permission to get up at 6 and go at 7. However, it's still the first thing that I do in the morning, because if I don't put it at that point in my routine, it's just not going to happen because the busyness of life and work takes over. And so there is a reason that you tend to see those kind of people in first thing in the morning, is because they prioritize this both in their routine and in kind of their overall well-being, which I think brings me to another point that I want to talk about is, I know for you, physical fitness is a big focus, but you also talk a little bit about kind of our overall wellness and the other aspects in addition to fitness that come into play here that help us be high performers. So what are all those things that we should be thinking about in that kind of like total wellness picture?
Yeah. So like lifting weights and going to the gym, like you said, you're a gym bunny yourself. Like I could live in the gym. But yeah, so that's just one element. Like lifting weights and getting yourself actually physically stronger is just one element of that overall kind of umbrella of high performance and just overall just better health. So that's like before everything else, like that's what we want first, is we want overall just better general health so we can live longer, be healthier, and just show up on a day-to-day basis as a better version of ourselves. But we all know nutrition is obviously super important, and I won't bore your listeners with the complexities of nutrition right now, but obviously you know you need to eat a balanced, nutritious diet, pack it with protein, and that will serve you well. Eat mindfully also really helps. But besides that, the big one I've noticed with a lot of people I've worked with is trying to keep their stress on their wraps, which is easier said than done. Now, entrepreneurship is stressful. Like, and I don't try to say it's more stressful than other areas. I know if you're a nurse, obviously you're going to have crazy stress, or if you're a fireman, you're going to have a different kind of stress. But entrepreneurship is mixed with a different type of stress, whether that's decision making, and whatnot. But managing your stress as an entrepreneur is very, very, very important, and it's something that just gets lost on a lot of entrepreneurs and high performers and like execs and that sort of stuff, because they just think that it's part and parcel of their world, and it is. Like, don't get me wrong, I never tell any of my clients and anyone I speak to is like, I'm not trying to get rid of your stress, I'm just trying to get you to manage it better, because stress is part and parcel of life. It's going to happen. I'm not going to be able to stop it. You're going to have those emails that come through at 9 p.m. where someone has messed up a deal or done something they shouldn't have done, and your stress is going to go from like a 2 out of 10 to like skyrocket to a 10. So
right
10
before you're ready to go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's just part of life. So you need to know how to manage that stress. So that's like quite a big one with me, with that whole high performance bracket. Besides, on top of stress, one of the things that helps stress management is sleep. So proper recovery, like sleep is, I could sit here and we could chat for this whole like 30-40 minutes just on sleep alone. That's how important sleep is, and the different things that people can do to improve their sleep. If you're not sleeping enough, your chances of like being successful, while you might be successful in the short term, long term, it just ain't going to happen. Like, you will fall by the wayside. It's simple as that. And I'm sure you can probably attest to that as well, that sleep has probably had quite a big impact on you, either positively or negatively, depending on which way it's swung.
I am known in my circle for being the one that just goes to bed early, right? Especially when I was doing the 5 a.m. Now that I do 6 a.m., I'm more of an adult and I can stay up until, the wee hour of 10 p.m. I used to be known as the pumpkin. And I had friends that would text me at like 9:03 and they'd be like, "Hey, I know you're about to go to bed, but," and I'm like, "Are you serious?" But it was so important. And I'll be honest that now that I am a middle-aged woman, I just need to accept that fact at the age of nearly 44. Sleep is becoming a trickier thing due to the changes that occur as a midlife woman, and also stress impacts it. So, like for me, I don't get the 9 p.m. I can't fall asleep. I get the 3 a.m. I'm awake, and now all of those things are circling. I come up with great ideas at 3 a.m. Mark. Let's just be honest, and then my brain won't go back to sleep. So, yeah, I notice. I think for me, and I'm curious what your thought on this. Sleep is, and like you said, we did a whole podcast on this. Anders, shout out to Anders. I think sleep is probably the first of all of the list, because you're not going to have a great workout that then fuels your performance if you don't sleep well. If you don't eat well, you don't sleep well. It's like a whole cycle. And while it can feel overwhelming, you actually need to attune to kind of each of these areas if you really want that maximum performance.
Yeah. No, sleep is like hands down the most important thing. I like when I get clients into my world and I get them on my program, like one of the first things I work on is sleep. So it's like, I get you, you're going to start exercising straight away. But before we look at the complexities of nutrition and just everything else, like, we work on sleep, and that's how important it is. My post on LinkedIn this morning was about sleep. I talk about sleep at least once, maybe twice a week on that platform. And yeah, it's just so important. It's the reason why I wear a Whoop strap. There we go. And yeah, it's so important. And what you said was right on the money about saying sleep impacts your training intensity, like in the gym. It impacts your nutrition, it impacts your stress, it impacts your mood, and just everything. We all know, like we've all been in that situation where we have a great night's sleep and we are the nicest person in the world to be around, and our husband or our wife, they think the world of us, or they can actually withstand us, which I know my fiance, she's not too pleased to be around me when I'm in a certain mood due to lack of
Nope.
sleep, which I don't blame her.
Mhm.
To be honest, I wouldn't want to be around me as well. But yeah, so so getting off topic, it dictates how your day is going to go. And then we've all been in that situation where we've had an awful night's sleep and we are just everything
Dragging
falls.
ass.
It is, yeah, dragging ass. But everything just falls by the wayside. Yeah, exactly. You don't train right. You're 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 in a horrible mood. Your decision making is dreadful. You want to eat anything but healthy food, like healthy food as such. And it's the reason why or a lot of people who are trying to lose weight, for instance, is why they struggle so much to do it, is because they're not sleeping enough. And then they wake up and they feel like crap. They're lethargic. So what do? They reach for the pack of biscuits. And I think I've been there. I've probably there last week. I didn't sleep. I know one night I didn't sleep very well. And that's just life. It happens, but you can't let it be chronic. Because if you do that 6 or 7 days a week, then that's when we run into issues. 1 day a week, cool.
You can usually manage. There are not enough peanut M&Ms in the world for Angie getting a bad night's sleep, which brings me to a good segue into the food situation, because I actually think my husband hates me more when I am low blood sugar and haven't eaten properly than when I haven't slept well. This was something I noticed a ton as I started to kind of study nutrition and the balanced diet and the macros and all that kind of stuff a little bit more. And how my food intake throughout the day and what I was eating, not just when I was eating, really impacted like my energy levels, because I used to be really bad at like not eating. I'd eat lunch at like noon, and then by 4 o'clock, after 4 hours of meetings, I had 2 more meetings left and I've got like no energy and I'm just trying to power through and I was a terrible mood. And so kind of taking charge of that and doing a little bit better about continuous eating and keeping blood sugar levels stable really helped me. So I'd be curious for you to talk about how that fits into this it's a whole cycle, right? You sleep well, you eat well, you train well, you work well. And then, if one's off, you can usually manage. If 2 are off, you're kind of all over the place. So how does the food part fit into this picture?
Yeah, like I try not to say one is more important than the other, because like we could chat about nutrition for an hour. And like if you don't have nutrition in check, then your hopes of like looking a certain way, feeling a certain way, and performing a certain way, they're going to be completely off. So nutrition is just extremely important. Now, just speaking from my own experience, from someone that works from home now all the time, nutrition can be like, you can make nutrition as easy or as hard as you want it. Like if you're at your home, which a lot of people are now, they work remotely, is that you don't really have any excuses for not eating well, but then you also have a lot of excuses because you have access to all the maybe wonderful food you have at home. So people like to paint it with both brushes. But if I was going to give someone a few tips when it comes to nutrition, one would be to have some sort of plan. Now, I don't give clients meal plans. I've never believed in that, because everyone's life is different and there's just, you don't know what, or just, you can't, I don't like people on plans because they never go to plan. Simple as that.
No, because
There's always
inevitably you do not want the lunch you entered into your spreadsheet that day. It's just inevitable.
It doesn't work. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah. But you need to have some sort of loose plan. Now, I mean loose plan as in you've went to the effort of stocking up your fridge. Or if you work in an office in the city, then you have to preempt that and go, right, if I'm not going to bring lunch in with me, like what's around me? Like what restaurants are around me? Can I order? Can I go in and sit down? And like, just, you have to plan ahead. Otherwise, like the same way with business, if you don't plan, you're going to fail. With your nutrition, you have to plan. And like I said, just make it loosely, but it comes down to just that individual just having a bit of value on their nutrition and prioritizing it just more than they normally would. I'm not telling you to go out and prep a week of food, because for most people that is just, it's just nonsense. It ain't gonna happen. Like I'll cook one day ahead, and I mean that as in I'll cook my dinner now when we're
Eat it
finished,
the next night. Yeah,
and
that's
yeah,
awesome.
or just lunch like that, and that's just how it is. But that makes life so much easier because I know my lunch is there. It means I can just within 5-10 minutes heat it up, eat it, back to work, instead of me just thinking, what can I eat? I lose an hour, or I don't eat, or I eat something that I eat something sweet from the cupboard that is not mine anyway, and I get in trouble for eating it. But if I'm hungry, I'll eat it.
Okay, now that's a different session. You
Yeah,
said something I think is really important. It is kind of an overarching theme here, which is the idea of planning. And so again, these executives, other entrepreneurs, high performers in the gym first thing in the morning because they put that into their plan.
yeah,
Sleeping well, same a sleep schedule. There's a reason
so
you
important.
do sleep training with toddlers, I guess,
Yeah.
or not toddlers, babies, I guess. Spoken like a true middle-aged woman with no kids right here. But it is, I think it is planning and prioritizing a lot of this stuff and not leaving it up to kind of chance. And while that might seem onerous, because we're talking about food and sleep and exercise and stress management, and you're like, oh my crap, how many things do you want to put in this plan? You can start and kind of do it a thing at a time and stack, right?
Yep.
Instead of just trying to like overhaul everything at once, because we also know how that goes. And so this was what I was most excited to talk to you about, which is all the practical stuff, right? So all of this is why we care about it. You can perform your best, you fuel the vessel that is performing and that is providing, and treat it with the respect it deserves, and you will get the performance out of it. Now let's give everybody tips on how to do that. So you gave us one great one in the food department: cook once, eat twice.
Yep.
I would love to know, what are some of your other favorite kind of tools or strategy on staying healthy, across the board and across this whole cycle we're talking about?
Yeah, cool. So if I was, so one of the things that plagues a lot of these people we're kind of speaking about is is a lack of activity or inactivity. You spend 8, 9, 10 hours in an office, you don't really move very far. And I used to do 10, 12 hours in the gym floor, and my steps were a lot higher. And that really challenged me when I went remote and started just working online. And the first few years, I didn't realize how much of an impact that had. Only until the last year, I kind of noticed it and made a conscious effort to change that. But that's coming from someone that's trained for almost 20 years. So getting your activity up. Now, if you are in an office situation, which a lot of people listening to this probably will be, is you just have to do what you said, plan. What I like to do is just tell people to schedule things into their diary. So even if it's like, if you have a half an hour between meetings, like just put 15 minutes, put it into your Google Calendar, walk for 15 minutes, and double it up with tasks. So if you can double it up, like reply to some emails, instead of you being sat down at your desk, you can do that outside or just walk around your office. Like you be that, look like that crazy person, but just go up and down your office with your phone. And you'd be surprised how many more extra steps you can get in. And yeah, so that's definitely what I would do, is just make a little bit more of a conscious effort to get your steps in, because it does have a huge impact on your overall health, and then just kind of how much or how you will actually look and feel as well. So that's one, is double up your tasks with your steps. It makes a big difference. The other one is sleep. So getting to this, we spoke about it very briefly, but your circadian rhythm, which is a fancy word for saying like your almost like your internal body clock as such, is you have to have that. You have to keep an eye on that. And what that all that means is you have to go to sleep and wake up at regular bedtimes. Yeah, from your Whoop as well. It's very big on that. It's like, did you sleep, or your sleep efficiency? But do that, because it will change how you feel and perform like that. You mentioned the kids. I don't have any kids myself, but there's a reason why they go. You have screaming mothers going in the motorway, so we have to get them to bed. It's because their routine helps them like function. It's like they have to get to sleep. They have to get to sleep. But we lose that as adults. Like as we get older, it kind of gets
Yep.
lost on us. Not on all of us, but on a lot of us. So yeah, go to sleep and wake up roughly like 30 minutes on average difference. Now the weekends can be different. Like I don't wake up at the same time on the weekend as I do during the week. Like I'll wake up at 5:30 during the week, maybe a bit earlier in the morning, but at the weekends I'll wake up at 8, like maybe 9. But midweek, do that.
Mark and I have the same sleep schedule, everyone. I'm like, oh, that sounds exactly like what I do, is 6 on the weekdays. And then, I can usually get myself to fall back to sleep until 8 on the weekends. And then you bank a little sleep in case you need it. Get a little credit in the Whoop.
Exactly. Yeah. Sleep debt is a thing. People think it's made up, but it actually is a thing. Like you can earn sleep debt as such, which it's why. And that's another thing is, if I was going to give someone else another really big tip, is you need to find a way of tracking your progress. Now, I don't just mean, well, the most common way people track their progress when it comes to health is usually to jump on a weighing scale. And that's just one form of tracking your progress. I don't use weighing scales I won't say I don't use them, but the majority of my clients, I don't use weighing scales with. I never really have. We use other metrics, but you need to have something to measure your progress. And that's why you obviously wear a Whoop. It's why I wear a Whoop, because it tracks certain metrics. If it doesn't get tracked, it doesn't get measured, and you don't know where you need to progress. And this should sound great to the people that are listening to this, if they are entrepreneurs and in that field, because they have a habit of tracking stuff. Like you track like your expenses to the penny, and you've got like percentages of this and percentages of that. So they're analytic, like they know the value of tracking things. Otherwise businesses would collapse. So do the same with your health.
Yeah. So you don't collapse, everybody. Same principles applied. And it's funny. Sometimes I wonder, my watch will give me a readiness score based on how I've slept. And sometimes I'm like, is this a good thing to look at? Or is this now a placebo effect, that by seeing a low readiness score, I'm going to go slog my butt up a hill on a mountain bike because my mind is telling me I'm not ready for this. But generally you'll start to notice some correlations in what kind of impacts it, as far as the other elements that contribute to kind of that overall thing. But the big picture is plan and track your progress. And across each of these, how you sleep, how you eat, how you manage your stress, and how kind of active you are. I would say a big takeaway for me is how it sounds like how activity throughout the day does change the game and is important, in addition to kind of like focused activity, like in a workout session, right?
Big time. It's so important. Like it's that important that I'm going to buy myself one of those the walk pads for underneath your desk, like the indoor treadmills. They're getting very popular. And that's just because it's got darker, like it's coming into autumn, and I've just noticed the last few weeks that I just haven't been as active. I'm still pretty active. Like I'll average like 12,000 steps a day, but that's down from like 14 to 15, for instance, which is not massive. Like it's a big enough drop, I suppose.
I'm sitting here going, oh crap, I got to get on this, because I leave my house in the morning, go to the gym, and then come home. And then I am essentially in my same little like 10 by 10 room, except for the 20-foot walk to the fridge and back. And I'll look at my watch at the end, because, standing is okay, but it's not walking, and I'm not moving really. I've thought about those treadmills, but I got to tell you, every time I've ever talked to anybody that's on them, it kind of gives me a little vertigo.
I know, I have heard that. Yeah. And I've seen people on meetings, and it does look a bit odd. I know my missus, she doesn't like when people are on it in calls. She says it just distracts her. You see this little thing, but I don't do it with my clients, so I'd be good.
Hey, you got to do what's right for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's a very, very, very important point, is just, you got to be selfish with your health and fitness. I say that to everyone. Is like the most selfish thing you could ever do is not prioritize your health and fitness. And by you doing that, it is the most selfless act you'll ever make, is putting yourself as number one. Because if you're number one, then you can look after everyone else. If you have your health and fitness, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs do, and I know from my own experience of working with a lot of them, some of them, like a lot of them, are extremely successful in their fields. But when they come to me, if they were to rank where their health is like number 5 or 6. It's like business, maybe business, family, or maybe interchangeable, but usually business, family, like car, restaurants, whatever it is, like dinner, whatever, social life, and then health and fitness is down here. But they come to me because like something has happened, like something bad has happened with their health, or they've just woken up one day and goes,
Mm.
"This, I'm just sick of this. Like I need to do something." And then we bring health all the way to number one, and then they make amazing progress, and then they end up making more money, and they already
And it
open a new
starts to
business.
slide.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, where they see the results of it. I find
Oh
it
yeah, sorry,
interesting
yeah,
that
yeah,
yeah, I find it interesting that what you just mentioned to me was like it's almost like health and prioritizing health and fitness is reactionary at first, right? It is, oh, I need to do this because of an event or because I have a problem, so now I need to react to that and prioritize it. But I think this whole conversation is Mark and I standing on a soapbox together and encouraging you all to proactively prioritize
yeah,
it so that those events don't come.
yeah. No, it's all reactive. Yeah. Now you get the odd person like that will be proactive with it, but I've been coaching for almost 10 years, and I would say, I don't have a rough figure, but I was going to say maybe 90%, 9 out of 10 people will come to me
Yeah.
because of like they're being reactive to something. I know a lot of my really, really good clients that I've had for like 3 or 4 years, it's been because of someone in the family has been ill, or they've seen someone like maybe parents, and the parents are physically enabled. So they're like, I don't want to get like that. Or someone has passed away sadly from like an illness. And then it's like, right, I got to do something. And then every single one of them would tell me, I wish I did this 20 years ago. I was like, fair enough. That would have been great, but you're here now and you've
Here.
changed, but it's all reactive. And it's just human nature. Like we get comfortable and we get comfortable and we don't want to make a change until something bad happens. But yeah, like you
Mm.
said, be proactive because it just gets you ahead of the curve. And yeah, it just makes your life so much easier when you're not trying to fix bad situations.
Yeah, and I'll tell you just even personally, I grew up in the diet generation, right? Like, little short, big butt Italian in the world of Kate Moss over here as a teenager. And the phase, like craze or fad diets was the term. And there is so much more information available out there now about how to have a healthy diet and not be on a diet, that all of
Mhm.
these things are so much more easily integrated into your life. And I've been on a very long, I would say, fitness journey that I would really intensified about 5 years ago when I was starting to get so busy in business that I was like, okay, I'm going to have to find something I can go do first thing in the morning because I'm not paying attention to my fitness and it's impacting my ability to go do all these fun mountain adventures that we do. And so I stumbled into a CrossFit gym, never ever going to be somewhere I thought I would go, but a friend was like, I think you might like it. And the sick person in my head loves it. And really it was out of necessity and out of a need for routine. And it filled the need. And it ended up doing so many things I didn't expect. I have some of my best friends are from that place. I have more energy and more stamina. I have more strength than I've ever had in my life at almost 44. When we do DIY house projects, I can carry stuff. And I would never have gotten on a mountain bike and hauled my ass up a hill if it weren't for that kind of fitness. So it's just really interesting what prioritizing your health, wellness, and well-being can do for your potential.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's like it sounds cliche and like maybe cheesy, but it does change your life, and it's as simple as that's why it says on my LinkedIn like in the business of changing lives or something cheesy along those those lines. But yeah, it does. It changes who you are, it changes what you can do, and it stops certain things potentially happening to you in the future as well, which
Yes.
I'm very, very big on. Like I did a podcast a few days ago, and someone in the UK, really, really, really like he's actually Britain's second greatest ever Olympian, won 6 gold medals, like the strongest and fittest person you'll probably ever meet, like face to face. And he came out with the news this or last week that he had terminal cancer before the age of, he's like in his 40s. But it's just one of those things where it's just luck of the draw, like roll of the dice, and he ended up getting this really bad news. But he was extremely healthy. Like you don't become a 6-time Olympic champion at indoor cycling if you are not like an absolute superhuman. So he was doing everything in his power to like live a healthy, long, happy life. And I just try to hammer that message across to people as like we're not here forever. Like as much as some of us would like us or would like to believe that, we're not. So I know like it's our responsibility to kind of just put the work in and make the most of it, because it is an absolute shame to see some people just kind of throw it away and just be nonchalant with their health. And
You've
a lot
got
of people,
one shot.
yeah, it
Got
is.
one
Yeah,
shot.
to quote Eminem, you got one shot.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I didn't even think of that. And the Olympian in my mind, he, obviously there's nothing he could have done to change that, but the shape he's in will probably prolong the inevitable as long as he can. And I'm going to say that mentally, he's probably able to go through that with more stamina and more positivity than a lot of people, because he won't have the regret of, oh man, I should have done these things like with my body or with my potential, or optimized my performance before this thing occurs to me. And I think that's what's so important here, is that, as Eminem said, and as Mark and I have said, you do have one shot. Do everything you can to maximize it. Because I'll say that once I really started embracing this mentality of how my physical well-being impacts my overall performance, I started noticing that as a business owner and entrepreneur, I had more confidence. I was willing to step in and take more risks. Things roll off my back a little bit easier because I'm now trained to do really hard, painful things. And so it's just, things don't seem that hard. And so you'll be really surprised how this does bleed into all your relationships will be better because you're happier. It really is a foundational component to who we are as people and how we show up into the world.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like the reason I train the way I do and I go to the gym so often is because when you do really hard stuff in the gym, it does make life a little bit easier. Like last week, I got that medal there doing
Congrats!
You have it's not you know them in America, the Spartan races.
Oh
yeah. So I did the 22-kilometer one on last Saturday. It was really good fun. It was like the longest event I've ever done in the mountains of Barcelona. And I do those sort of things because it's hard, and I do them to push myself. So then when I come back to normal life, it feels easier, and it gives me a hell of a lot more confidence. Like I've never done that distance before, and like I have one of my goals for next year is to start public speaking. It's like to go into businesses and all that sort of stuff, and run seminars for just what I do and just how it can impact workplace performance, all that sort of stuff. And doing things like that just lets me know that, yeah, I can do that other stuff. Like I can do public speaking and all that sort of stuff. So do the hard things so life feels easier, and it's just win-win. You get healthier, all that sort of stuff, more confidence, business. And then it has a massive impact on your business. That's the other thing as well. It's like you've said it, when you look after yourself and you strength train and all that sort of stuff, like it will 100% improve your business. It's just simple as that.
So everyone, we just got Mark to tell us his big, hairy, audacious goal for next year. Get ready, because guess who's going to keep you accountable and probably support you in doing it. I love it. But then it also ties back to how his health supports his ability and courage to step out on that stage, literally and figuratively. Yeah. I love it. I think that's amazing. And I think it's also really exciting to see how experts in this world also push themselves and see the results of these kinds of things. I've seen this, I actually think it was maybe a CrossFit marketing campaign recently that said, hard choices, easy life, easy choices, hard life. And I thought that was such an interesting thing to think about, because the easy thing is to not get up and go to the gym in the morning, but everything else is going to be harder because you don't. The easy choice is to stop at McDonald's and get the damn quarter pounder. But I can guarantee you 8 hours later, your life ain't going to be easy because of that. Right. So think about where you can choose hard for long-term easy instead of quick, easy decisions that actually end up having a harder effect in the long run.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite. It's like something I live by like every day. I tried maybe 6 out of 7. But yeah, it's something I'm big on, like easy life now, hard life later. And when you relate that to your health, exactly as you said, like I don't want to, like at the moment I'm doing a really long run every Saturday and it's boring as hell. And the reason it's boring is because I'm doing it on a treadmill. And I'm doing it on a treadmill because I'm trying to,
bless you.
I know, because I'm I'm monitoring my heart rate. I'm trying to keep it like quite low so I can improve my endurance. And it's just easier to do on a treadmill. Otherwise, if I'm outside, I look like I'm 6'5", I'm a big guy. Like I've got a bigger presence than most. So when you see me trying to run really, really slow to keep my heart rate down outside, it looks hilarious.
It probably looks as hilarious as my 5'1.5" trying to run fast. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. But I kind of forget what I was talking about that. But yeah, I did. Yes, I don't want to do that on the treadmill. Like it is so boring. Like I'm on Saturday, I run for 90 minutes, like just at the same speed, and it's monotonous, and it's super boring. All my clients like, what the hell are you doing? But I do it because it serves a purpose, and that purpose is to get me fitter, stronger, and also it's going to get this old thing strong so I can live for longer. But yeah, that's just my example of do the hard thing now so then life is easier later on. But and if you get really good at those things and you start to consistently do those hard things and the difficult things, whether it's with your health, whether it's with your business, you will notice a positive correlation of like good things happening to you. It's like they say, lean into the difficult, like have the difficult conversation with somebody you don't want to have. And then what happens? You feel great after it most times.
Yep.
Do the really hard workout. You feel great after it. Cook a more nutritious meal. You feel a million times better after it than when you order Five Guys or McDonald's and you feel like crap afterwards. So yeah, choose your hard. To
choose your
quote
hard.
David Goggins.
I love it. I think that's a great way to summarize everything we've talked about, that choose your hard. And Mark and I are encouraging you to choose what's hard physically, because it'll actually end up making everything easier and better. So on that note, Mark Gray, thank you for joining us on No More Mondays. This has been awesome. I always tell people if I hadn't gone into career coaching, I probably would have gone into health and wellness coaching just because of what it's done for me. And so I love what you're doing and the scale at which you're doing it. And I can't wait to see you on a stage next year.
Yeah. I know I've got no choice now, but I'll be there.
Yeah, you know how you don't
no,
have a choice.
It's a big goal. Yeah, I'll be there.
I love it. So thank you again so much for joining me. Everybody out there, we hope that you got some good takeaways. There's lots of practical advice here on how to live and work well. And I really mean literally live and work well. Take care of yourselves, everyone. I hope that you will follow both Mark and I here on LinkedIn. And if you are out there listening in podcast land, head over to LinkedIn or nomoremondays.info to get all the info from today's show. And I will see you all next week for another edition of No More Mondays Live. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you.